We're making a dress. No machines allowed. You know, considering I started my making stuff exploration or obsession with embroidery, which is essentially just hand sewing in a decorative manner, you'd think I'd be more into hand sewing. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I spend some amount of time almost every single day working on one of my currently 4 long-term embroidery projects. But when it comes to garment construction, I'm like, hand sew a hem, hand sew a snap. Ugh. I feel like it's almost one of those you told me to do it, so now I don't want to do it kind of things, even though it's me who has told me to do it. But guess what? I'm still delayed on finishing my studio so I can move back in there. Yay! Oh, big boy. Oh, the booty scratches. I'll talk about it more in that video, which will hopefully be out next week. But basically, I need big stuff and I have small car. Matt has the big car, and Matt is very busy at work. Bye. For, well, reasons you can probably guess if you know who he works for. So rather than plowing ahead with one of my tier 1 list projects and just doing it in my makeshift living room studio, oh no, too far, I thought I would pull out an idea that I have been wanting to try for ages but have just kept putting off because y'all, sewing machines are so comfy and speedy. I really want to try sewing a dress entirely by hand, which I'd like to point out is not some monumental thing. Many people sew garments by hand frequently, or sew everything that they sew by hand. It is just something that I have never tried before, so I don't really have a concept of what the process will be like, or more interesting to me, how long it will take. I'm gonna use this lovely light blue linen. Yes, gasp, I have linen. You know why? Because I found it at Remainders. That was rare, that was super lucky. I snatched it up and I have been saving it because it feels like it deserves to be something special. Hand sewing is special for me. Hand sewing a springy, summery linen dress, it's a vibe. Not the typical vibe of this channel, but also, I am into trying new stuff. So I had to come up with a design to do for this, and honestly, I didn't have any ideas at the immediate ready, even though I have 50 dress designs just spinning in my head constantly. But a lot of the designs that I want to do are specifically challenging in some way, or I have a specific fabric in mind for them, and the challenge here is the hand sewing. So I don't think the design needs to be super complex. I also just don't have any experience really with linen. So I Googled linen dresses for inspiration and basically learned right off the bat that linen is super versatile and you can kind of do whatever you want with it. I don't want to go incredibly simple in design because I do want the sewing to be a challenge, but I'd also love it if I didn't have to do any form of closure. No zippers, please. So here is what I drew after that research. This makes sense to everyone, right? You can totally see my design in there. Ignore the whale tails, that's just, it was just a thought that I had. Tails and pockets, and I don't think that's gonna come into play here. I broke it down a little bit more on this page, and we've got 12 pieces, so I said not too simple, not too complex, and then I just immediately went and made it kinda complex. I can't help it. I'm still debating between flutter, butterfly, or puff sleeves, so I don't know, I might do an Instagram poll and let somebody else decide for me. Let us measure, guesstimate, and cut some stuff out. Actually, I'm gonna go eat lunch first because I'm really hungry. Time for a sleeve decision. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Come over here. That one's Mommy's. Thank you. Okay, while the good people of the internet decide whether I should do flutter or puff sleeves, flutter is currently edging out puffed, which actually might be best with this kind of fabric. Anyway, I'm gonna eat strawberries and cream and write down my step-by-step process. Y'all, I ran out of powdered sugar, so I sweetened the cream with yuzu syrup that I found in this really cool store the other day. That works. So this is something that I do a lot, especially because I'm not using patterns, so I don't have the step-by-step instructions of a pattern to follow. Mostly because I have all the steps in my head, I kind of know what I should do, but there's also a lot of other stuff in my head. So writing it down is super helpful for getting it out. Sometimes I never even look back at the stuff that I wrote down, but just the process of writing it is enough to like solidify it in my brain and make me remember it easier. But I feel like with hand sewing this, having a written down list of the steps is going to be even more important because I'm assuming it's gonna take a lot more time to get this done. So, you know, a lot more of like, I've slept since then kind of moments. Are you doing sad chin? Obviously, there's a lot of different orders that I could do this in, but I think a really good place to start with just some very long, straight seams is putting the quarter circle between the two back panels. Then I can move on to what I typically do first in anything that I make, the pockets. I could also go ahead and make the sashes right here at the beginning. That's just a long seam down the side, turning it right side out. Just like you do on a machine, but slower. Okay, I think I have a good idea of where to start. But before we check in on the poll, just because I'm assuming at least one person is gonna ask, yes, I did make this dress. And no, I did not make a video about it. The other day I was at a stalemate on the studio, couldn't do anything else there. I couldn't start this video yet, and I find myself not able to sit and embroider for like 8 hours straight, like I did in a lot of 2020. So I was in this very weird place of not having anything to do. I didn't even have editing to do. So yeah, I made a dress, and I really like it. It is a technique that I've been wanting to do in a video, this like pleating together the stripes. So this was kind of a good little experiment, and the next time I do it, I will make a video about it, but not this time. Is it time to lick the bowl? Oh no, don't fall off the chair. There you go. He's very spoiled, y'all. Very spoiled. You have a good life. All right, we're doing butterfly sleeves. What could go wrong? Time to find out how many layers of linen I can cut through at one time. Oh, that's not too bad. All right, flutter sleeves. You start with a circle, and then you cut out an off-centered circle, depending on how big your armhole is. If only I knew how big my armhole was. There we go. That, nope, wrong way. That is a flutter sleeve. That is everything cut out, which means now I have to actually do it, the sewing part. You know what? I'm gonna start with the sashes. That feels safe and easy. I can just get those done today and let all of this wait for tomorrow. Procrastination, yay! A few thoughts from my first moments of hand stitching. Once I settled into it, so after like 8 stitches, and really became aware that I'm not in a hurry, I'm not trying to do the last finishing touches on a garment, I am in for the long haul. It became, much like embroidery is for me, quite peaceful and methodical. The only thing that really annoys me is how often I have to rethread my needle, even when I'm working with pretty long stretches of thread. But that is also the same in embroidery. I use ridiculously long pieces of floss, even though it constantly knots up and causes problems. I learned right away that as I have nothing to guide me quickly in a straight line like the presser foot does, I'll need to draw on lines to follow with my stitches or I am going all over the place. It's wavy as crap. And I do have a question for any experienced hand stitchers out there or anyone who just likes to offer their opinion. What do you consider a practical stitch length for these inside structural seams that you're not gonna see? Like obviously I could make them super tiny and perfect and la-di-da, but also I'd prefer to not take 2 years to finish this dress. So what's a good in between? I started with a back stitch about a 1/2 centimeter long, and that still felt a bit longish for me, but yeah, I'm not sure I'll be able to convince myself to go shorter. Sash is complete. They could be turned right side out, and I'll press them before I sew them into the garment, but that's gonna be a while away. Back at it tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. So we have moved on to the front section of the dress. I've got the pockets attached to the side front panels, and now I'm attaching the 3 panels together. And it is going a little faster now that I remembered that I can use the sewing method, or what I like to call the slide method. Come here, bud. Mr. Prettiness. Rather than the stab method, which like I'm very traditionally a stabbing embroiderer, so I just tend to forget that the sewing or slide method is an option, and it is faster. One of the main reasons hand sewing a dress has been on my list for so long is because I have no concept of how long it'll take me. As someone lightly obsessed with time, part of the fascination of trying any new thing is figuring out how long will this take. Like, I was so surprised to find out how quickly you can do thrown pottery. On the Great Pottery Throwdown, somebody did like a demonstration, or they had as like a challenge making a 1-minute teapot. And like, yeah, of course it was like messy, but you could still make a teapot in 1 minute. And that blew my mind. Because I'm of course coming from the other side of the spectrum, where I don't think with embroidery a lot of people realize how much time goes into an embroidery piece. And the more that I sew, the more I'm gaining this sense of how long any given garment is going to take me to make, although granted, I am still constantly surprised, both in a you overestimated and thought that this would take you way longer and it ended up taking like 1 day, and you totally forgot that hemming a circle skirt takes a massive chunk of time because it's huge. I still guesstimate wrong in both directions. And it's a question I get a lot, and I'm sure that all sewists and quite frankly makers of anything also get all the time. How long did it take you to make that? But I always feel kind of weird answering that because I don't think many of us clock in and out of our makes, especially if we don't sell the things that we make, so we don't need to keep track of the hours so we can charge accordingly. So I'll say like, oh, it took me 2 days to make that dress, but that's 2 days of someone who does this full time and also has very little outside distractions around. So that's not exactly like a helpful estimate for someone who's trying to sew in their free time after a full-time job or who has like kids around the house that need their attention. On the other hand, there is the addition of time that filming myself takes. So if it took me 2 days to make something, someone in a very similar situation of doing it full time without very many distractions, I mean, maybe it would only take them 1 day because they're not having to set up shots and they're not pausing to randomly talk to a camera. And then of course we all work at different speeds anyway, so there is that. Welcome back. But I find it really interesting to know how long it took someone to make something in a more precise way than days, generally in hours. So I completely understand other people wanting that information as well. Clocking in and out of my makes is not gonna happen, especially due to the filming thing. Like, that just throws everything off. But every once in a while, when I can, I do find it fascinating to do that, to really keep track. Who's out there? So my big keeping track of the hours piece is the Beauty and the Beast stained glass embroidery. I actually have a time clock app on my phone, and I very specifically clock in and out every time I work on that piece, because I know it's gonna take me years to finish it, but it is absolutely not actually years of work. I mean, I literally go on like multiple month-long breaks from working on it at all. So I clocked in and out on the first Beauty and the Beast embroidery piece that I did, and I ended up with 329 hours of work, which I think you have to convert into days in order for like that number to really sink in, at least for me. That is over 13 days of like 24 hours straight work, or it's about 41 days of 8-hour workday. Fascinating stuff, right? While we're here, a little bit of an update on the current big one, because the last video for that is probably gonna come out like 2 years from now. I have currently reached over 400 hours of work. Good times. Anyway, all of this to say, time is fascinating. The amount of time it takes to do something is fascinating to me. And that's why I wanted to try hand sewing an entire dress, not like some historical gown or something big, but just a normal modern style dress, like what people would be sewing on a constant basis in these modern times if style had progressed as normal, but sewing machines had never been invented. God forbid. So I'm clocking in and out on this dress because it could take me, I don't know, a week, or it could take me 2 months. We're already at like 3 days. Wouldn't it suck if I did all of this and then it didn't fit? So this is where we've landed. Back of the dress, done. Top of the dress, done. All I have left to do is attach this front part to the dress and hem the whole thing, only wouldn't you know it, it's too small. I have no idea what happened. I'm gonna blame like my brain being all sorts of weird places when I cut this whole thing out, but like every single panel here on the front should have been like 2 inches wider, which is making me think I didn't put seam allowance on them, maybe? Hard to say. So yeah, it's landing here, and it should be landing, you know, here. So I'm just gonna go get creative with the very little fabric that I have left. Piecing? Fun piecing? Totally a design choice? Piecing? Totally! Design choice! I'm done! Oh, y'all. You come to join me? This is just what we do lately, apparently. He's very into standing on my boob. The new glasses have arrived to replace the ones I broke in last week's video. The dress, though, it's very comfy, it's very pretty. I'm quite pleased with it. Even with my whoopsie daisy, it doesn't fit. I had to get quite creative. And then I was like, you know what? While I'm doing that, why not just throw a few extra pockets in there? So now there's just mismatched pockets. I didn't want to do the same kind on each side. I don't really know why. It makes the dress quite unique, and I am cool with that. But my main focus was the time. I have been working on it for 10 days. Not as bad as I kind of was assuming in my head. I was kind of expecting at least 2 weeks, so cool. It took me about 3 hours to do the initial designing and cutting out of the pieces, and then there were an extra 2 hours when I had to cut out the extra side panels. So overall, 5 hours was spent cutting out, not really sewing. That would have been the same whether I was using a machine or not. 47 hours were spent stitching, and that also includes like pinning and ironing seams. 47 hours. The longest I worked in one day was almost 9 hours. I worked almost 9 hours in one day sewing on this dress. Woo! And then the shortest was less than 1 hour. There was a day that I was working a background job and I came home and got like a little less than 1 hour of sewing done. So yeah, what does that tell me? Not much. Really, not much. There are so many variables within that, you know, how many pieces I had to sew together, the fact that I was doing French seams. I chose to make all of the visible stitching, including the entire hem, the hem on the sleeves, the top of the pockets, around the neckline, all of that. For some reason, I just decided to make it a split stitch, which just takes a little bit longer to sew than a back stitch will, because you gotta get it between the two threads and all that. So yeah, like There's things that slowed me down, there's things that were maybe faster. Overall, that doesn't really tell me anything scientific, but it is still fascinating to me. Like, that's theoretically 6 days of full-time work, 6+ to make one single dress. I'll be honest, I thought it would be more. Cool. Am I gonna be hand sewing dresses again in the near future? No. No, I am not, y'all. Sewing machines are great. Also, the problem that I ran into is I've gotten really good in the last year or so at separating my work day from my relaxing time. I've gotten a lot better because I don't take weekends off. I work 7 days a week. I've gotten better at making myself stop work around like 6 o'clock every night, have dinner, and then spend the rest of the evening either with Matt if he is home or doing like hobby work, which is embroidery, sewing on one of my embroidery pieces. But because this was all hand sewing, I just found myself sitting on the couch and continuing work straight into the night until it was bedtime, because I was like, I don't want to switch from hand sewing this to hand sewing embroidery. So I think that's honestly the thing that makes me not want to hand sew on garments at all. It's because my hobby is already hand sewing. The thing that I do in my downtime to relax is sitting there and slowly stitching. So if I take that activity and I turn it into what I'm doing for work, then it kind of spoils the hobby, and now I don't have that anymore. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to embroidery being my relaxing thing at night, and sewing dresses on a sewing machine. It was a fun experiment though. If you do not have a sewing machine and you want to start sewing clothing, it is freaking possible. Go for it. You can do it. It's gonna take you longer, it's gonna take some time, but it is 100% doable. You definitely have an appreciation for the finished garment when you're done, because it's like, I invested some time in that. Also, guess what I did not finish in the course of sewing this dress? That's right, I didn't finish my sewing studio. Yay! You cannot see it, but there is a puppy standing on my chest right now. Ouch. Ouch! You have stabby little paws. Trash day. Don't be lumpy. You're so stinky. I thought I would pull out an idea. Nope. Oh God, come back. Oh, I already failed on that hardcore. Voiceover for hand sewing a dress. Hi, puppy. You're so cute. Do you want to come here? Look at that butt. He is now piling his toys on top of me.